So as it stands, Spurs are fourth in the Premier League right now. No wins in their last three in all competitions, and that does include an FA Cup and Champions League exit in the space of just over a week. Antonio Conte is out of contract this summer, and there's been a lot of talk about whether he'll even see out the season. This is what he's had to say on the matter. I have a contract with Tottenham. I respect the contract. At the end of the season, assessments will be made with the club in the most serene way. Let's see how this season ends. Maybe they can send me away even earlier. Perhaps the expectations were higher and maybe disappointed. What matters for a coach is trying to work and raise the bar. This year, we are struggling to raise the bar. Juls, do you think he's even going to see the season out with Spurs?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he will resign for different reasons. I think for his own pride to start with, for his contract, as you just said in the quote that you read. I don't think the club will get rid of him and pay him off the remaining 3 months of his contract now. So may as well finish the season with him. I think what he said the other night is he's admitting himself that he's failed, that he's failing really, because as we heard, he said they're struggling to raise the level, raise the bar. I've got no doubt that he won't be at the club next season. I don't think Spurs want him to be at the club next season. I think they're already working on who's coming next. And they will have to get this one right, because they've got too many wrongs now in the last, since Pochettino left, really. And the next one has to be the right one.
There is a short list of candidates to replace him. Taking a look at some of those names now for you. One of the big names is Luis Enrique, but at the top there you can see Mauricio Pochettino, Thomas Tuchel, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank, and as you can see there, Luis Enrique as well.
I'll take any of them over him.
Right. Who do you like most then?
Well,
for this role?
Tuchel. You know, Tuchel's had more success than Pochettino. De Zerbi's done a great job at Brighton. I love the way they play. Thomas Frank has been obviously brilliant with their recruitment at Brentford, and also the energy they have about them. But I'm just sick and tired of the whinging and moaning, and I think Tottenham are too. And look, if Tottenham had a long-term view, why did they bring in a short-term manager? Antonio Conte, apart from his time at Juventus, which was hugely successful, dragged them up and then went on this great run. Apart from that, he's sort of dodged between clubs, hasn't he? He's in and out, had success, left. You know, at Tottenham, you always needed someone that had a bit more long-term vision. It didn't take a genius to work out he was going to whinge and moan and talk about transfers and talk about squads and talk about players and talk about other teams. We knew he was going to do that. And somewhat you can suffer that if, one, you're getting results, which he is to an extent in the Premier League, but two, the football's actually decent, which it's not. It's pretty dire. And when you add those things together, I agree with Jules. I don't think he'll leave before the summer, but I don't think he'll be managing the club next season. And I think that's a good thing for Tottenham, as long as they make the right decision going forward.
What would be the right decision from that list, do you think, if they could get them?
I don't think they'll get Tuchel, by the way. I'm just saying that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's say that they could, though. He's included here.
I think that's a decision for, obviously, for the Spurs board to make, because as impressive a list as that is, so De Zerbi for me is a huge attraction just because of Spurs and their history around playing the game a certain way. Spurs fans like to see this game played a certain way. That's their tradition, and I think De Zerbi also serves that. My one concern is, does Potter's failure at Chelsea almost shade De Zerbi and what he's doing? Because while Graham Potter had Brighton playing fantastic football, you can't say he's been able to deliver that at Chelsea. So now, is there a little bit of a red flag there? That's something for them to decide, and for Spurs to decide stylistically. But then you cannot dismiss Thomas Tuchel, Luis Enrique for their successes in European football and delivering silverware. Because, again, the one thing you can say about Spurs is that silverware has eluded them. And as much as they got to the Champions League final a couple of years ago, they have not been able to deliver major silverware for quite some time. And in those two managers, they know how to get the job done. So does that then become the priority, bringing in somebody who can deliver silverware and has shown that? Or do you build from Spurs stylistically and then add the pieces you needed playing-wise to bring in whatever trophy you need?
I've said before on this show, and I think the timing for Graham Potter was bad. Not in terms of, he's got a big job and it's been a struggle. Good result in midweek. But I've always said I think Tottenham was a better fit for him, coming from Brighton, with a longer-term vision, with a bit more patience, with less chaos. Not as much money, obviously, but less chaos in the transfer market and more time to build. But obviously that ship has sailed because he's at Chelsea, he's having to deal with all this stuff. So unless he gets sacked in a week or so, he's not available and his stock might not be, obviously it's not going to be as high. But I think he was a better fit for Tottenham with a longer-term vision than Antonio Conte. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't turn the Chelsea job down and that might go awry for him. So I think they need somebody like that. It's going to be a bit more patient, like Pochettino was, to be fair, until it went wrong at the end. But I have no idea, to be honest with you, which way. And they're talking about Paratici being involved as well, who obviously is in a bit of hot water in Italy. So I've no idea which way this Tottenham board are going to go if indeed Conte leaves.
From that list that you just saw, Nadim, is there anyone that you think would be a good fit at Spurs?
Do you know, to be honest, I think this Spurs job is just a really interesting one because when somebody arrives, what are the goals? Is it like we're going to do everything we can to win a trophy, we're going to do everything we can to win a league? And, there are other teams who are trying to do that. Going into the next season, you'd find in a resurgent Man United, you're going to see Man City there. You're going to find a Liverpool team's probably going to be better. A Chelsea team's going to be better. An Arsenal side who might be, trying to fight to regain their Premier League title. So it's going to be extra competitive up there. So whoever comes in needs to have almost the backing and understanding that the players, the club, they're all pushing to be at the very top. Because if they're not, then you're looking at 5th, you're looking at 6th, you're looking at 7th. And is that what Spurs are? But I think ultimately, for this season, with Conte, some of the football people have been disappointed. It brings results, but even the other day against AC Milan, they're down to 10 men. There are a few minutes left. Then you take off Kulusevski to bring on Sanchez. And I get that he wants his structure, but the fans booed it because it just feels really negative. Some fans just want to see like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. So maybe somebody that can come in, bring in a level of exciting football, something which they can get behind, and sort of arrive into every week being hopeful, as opposed to thinking, well, maybe we'll win today, but it won't be nice to watch. So, as you look at those list of managers, maybe if you can get Luis Enrique, with a Thomas Frank, he's obviously done a great job with Brentford. This is obviously a high-pressure job if he goes to Spurs. But somebody that brings nice football, that would be fantastic. And somebody that genuinely believes that they can make that team and that football club go back to be successful at a time when it's probably as competitive in the Premier League as it's ever been.
So you've all picked someone a little bit different there.
Nadim's name normally gets mentioned for these jobs. And it's unfortunate for him that he's having his worst season is Brendan Rodgers. Now, Brendan Rodgers, you can argue here, is this down to Brendan Rodgers because he's not a bad manager? Or is this, I suppose some of it is, the buck stops with him and his coaching staff, but their recruitment in the summer was horrendous. Just not good at all. And maybe that's just unfortunate for him. I think he is a dark horse out there amongst all those names, but he's not as prominent as he was. You remember when Arteta was on the brink, it seemed, 12 months ago, whatever it was, maybe more than that. His name was in the forefront of most of the big air jobs. Unfortunately for him, because of Leicester's season at the moment, his name just doesn't seem to be up there. But I wouldn't rule out him being at least on a short list.
Jules, what's the talk in North London as to who the front runner is to replace Conte?
It's interesting because the list is great. They are different managers. Luis Enrique is very different to De Zerbi, to Holland, Pochettino have similarities, but also a lot of differences. Pochettino, I don't think a return of Pochettino. I don't know if he thinks it's a good idea. If people at the club, it seems that it's not the priority right now, despite the odds from the bookies. I think Tuchel, Chelsea, Spurs, the rivalry, all of that, I'm not too convinced either. I think De Zerbi would be great. I don't know. I don't think he's available right now for Spurs, even if they pay off Brighton. I don't know. I think Michael Carrick is maybe a couple of years too soon because I know. I knew you would say that. You know too well as well the great job he's doing at Borough right now. But I think this is maybe too early now. He still needs a bit of more experience before taking a bigger job like that.
What about Vincent Kompany, Jules? Guardiola's not leaving anytime soon, is he?
No, but I was going to say something about Kompany because the job, and I saw him again the other day in London. The job that he's doing with Burnley is exceptional. They're going to go up now, there's no doubt. And the identity, and again, we're talking about someone who needs to build something at Spurs with a proper identity, like Ten Hag at United, like Arteta at Arsenal, like Klopp did after Rodgers at Liverpool. This is the kind of manager that they need now. And I think Kompany will be perfect for that too. So there will be options, but let's not also forget that they will have to invest massively in this squad. It's a squad that is not good enough. So whoever is the manager, Shaka, Greg, Nathan, me, UK, is good, but the money will have to be invested to make that squad stronger, because otherwise, yeah, maybe Tuchel can do better with this squad than Conte, but it will still not be great because it's not a great squad.
And I think one of the questions you're asking, of course, is am I going to be managing Harry Kane? And that is, and you talk about improving the squad. If he goes at Tottenham, he's irreplaceable at that club, because that club don't have the money and will not go out and spend the money to bring that calibre striker in. So, you know, what's going to happen there? I mean, surely to God, he's got to push for this move. I mean, he has. I don't know. I say that, but I would imagine he's got one last push to try and go somewhere. Whether it's Man United, there's been some talk about the budget there and what way Ten Hag's going to go with it. There are other clubs out there. So, yeah, it's not just about who they're going to bring in as manager and who they're going to sign as maybe centre-halves or another midfielder. Is what's the big fella up front going to do?
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.